I often see window cards and think, why not a scrapbook layout? Today I'm going to go over this sketch design I have made for you all, and it is called Looking In. I do have two versions. One will include the new Cardinal Border Maker punch, but if you do not own that, I have made an alternate sketch in which we are going to create a cardinal embellishment. I am going to be doing version 2 for you. So with this sketch, I am using the Shades of Seasonal Sighting paper pack for the majority of my layout, but you can use any paper you want for this sketch. So use any paper you have on hand to make this sketch. Now, for the tree, I am using the Family Tree Laser Cut die. You can just pencil it in, but if you want to use the die and you do not have one on hand, do leave 5 3/4 of an inch space to add that later for the placement. All right, and for this one here, we are going to create the cardinal using the small cardinal quilt pattern instructions, which I have for you as well, just here. All right, so that will be these ones. So for our window mat here, the upper window pane is made with the geometric punch. So you'll be needing that to make your window, or you can add just another square and swap that out if you do not own the punch. Then your doorknob we're going to be making with some scraps. I have got some bronze shimmer left over from a project I did, and a bit of gold which I'm going to use. Also for your cardinal, you're going to need the red paper, which I have here, and you're going to need a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch square in yellow and black, so I've pre-punched those. So they are all set. That's about everything you're going to need for that page. And on this side here, basically I'm just going to need these 2 sheets and a bit of punches or laser borders or something to put in my window box, and some foam tape. As well, to assist you with this thing, you will be needing your regular adhesive tape, your repositional tape. I always use my 0 centering ruler to make life easy. I'm going to use my personal trimmer, my 12-inch trimmer, some scissors, and for handling small pieces, sometimes I like to have some little forceps on hand. So that's all the tools you're going to need, and let's get started. All right, I'm going to start with page 2 first. I'm going to be using this pattern paper for my background because I like the little balls on it. It does look like snowfall coming down, but it's going to take my greens and red to give me my seasonal fill. I'm going to try cutting with my trimmer in this direction so you get a wider pattern. And I printed the layout itself in a black and white just so I can see the measurements quite easily. So the first thing I'm going to do is I need 1, 2, 3 pieces at 9 3/4, and they're going to be 1 inch, a 1/2 inch, and a 1/4 inch respectively. So let's go the whole length at a 1/2 inch. Go up to my 1/2 inch line, which is right here. And then again my 1/4 inch line, which is the top of your gray band. And that's my 1/4 inch line. And the third piece I need is for my window box here at the bottom at 1 inch. And that one I'm doing in a different color, so I'm just swapping off my paper. to the 1 inch mark. I'm going to stack all these, and I'm going to cut them to 9 3/4. 1, 2, and 3, and we'll go through all those. So there we have it. Now our first 1/2 inch one is fine just the way it is. We don't need to do anything further with this one. With these pieces here, we need to trim them a little bit down 1/4 inch from the top to the bottom. So one of the easiest ways to do that is to just line it up a square on a line here, and I am going to take my pencil and I'm just going to mark my 1/4 inch down here. Perhaps a pen so it's a little darker for you to see. There's my 1/4 inch here, and I'm doing the same thing on this end here. I want to taper it in 1/4 inch to trim it down 1/4 inch to make that taper for my box. I'm going to make this edge 1/4 inch smaller. You can see how I'm lining it up on my mat, and I'm going in with 1/4 inch here, and then I'm just going to take my scissor and go from that top corner down to that little hash mark I have, and this will make my great little window box. And the same thing with this piece, the top of my frame. To give it that nice taper, like a nice mantle. The last piece I'm going to need is again to trim this down to my 9 1/4 by 9. So let's go 9 1/4 by 9. And there we have everything to make our window. So coming in 1 inch from the top of the page, I've centered my upper piece and my second piece, and I've placed it in place. I centered my photographs with a 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and 1/2 inch margin at the bottom. Again, using my centering tool, I matted and added my photographs for Christmas morning. Now I am just going to add my adhesive on the back of this. I'll slide that one into place. That will butt up here. And using my repositional tape and my punches, I did use the winter vine and the on the vine punches, and I did a double layer in green, and I added it to my sheet, and I added my foam adhesive on the back. So I'm just gonna pull that off, add some extra regular adhesive on the bottom edge, and we can fix that down here. So I use the zero centering ruler on that one as well. And that's the second page complete. For my next page, again, I'm going to use that same background page, and I have put some adhesive on the back of my laser embellishment, and I've set it on the page. So the other part I'm going to cut in half. I can use it again on another page, maybe for Halloween. So what I'm going to do now is just go to my trimmer and take off that part that I don't need. So just lining up my paper at the cut line, I'm just going to take my tree in half. So those parts are going to go away for another day on another page. And there we have our tree waiting for our cardinal, which we are going to create. All right, my door, which is black at home, so I'm going with black, which is 3 1/4 by 7 3/4. I am gonna set 1 inch from the bottom of the page and 1.5 inches from the outer edge, and it will sit nicely in here. My window frame, your start size is 2 1/8 of an inch by 6 inches, and I am going to use the same wood color that I used on my previous page. Now, if you do not own the geometric frame punch, you can put a square window at the top, followed by your pieces at the bottom. Easy enough. You just trim your photos accordingly. But for the frame punch, I will have to make my opening here. So I will grab my paper, set it in my punch so it's centered. Either side here, I'm just going above the door to that line at the top. And I'll give that a punch. Now these pieces here we're not going to need because we're going to be replacing them with our photo. I made this one a little bit wider just so I don't have to crop my photo so much. So I'm just going to take off these little edges, and that will give me my window. And that does look great right about here. On my page, I'm going to slide it, offset it just a little bit so I can get my doorknob in here. And I think I'm going to go, 1 inch from the bottom of the door. So that is where that's going to go. So I'm going to add some adhesive on that. So we're good to go. And for the upper part, I just want to add some repositional tape so that it is going to stick nicely on my sheet. And where I am inserting my photos at the top, I am going to add some repositional adhesive in that space here so that my pieces stick back inside. Because I have to punch my photo, I think I want to adjust my 2 inches based on where my head of my angel is. So I think I'm going to start by doing that first. This is a 2-inch space across my punch. So let me slide my picture in. I'm going to put my angel head in the photo about there. Just going to the top edge of the photo. And these pieces I'm going to need to fill my frame afterwards. So these edge pieces I do not need, but all these pieces I will need. So based on this, I'm going to finish my photo. This down to 4.5. This is at 2, so I need to trim just a little bit off. 1 7/8 is here. Now I need to cut this one into 4. I know that's 4.5, so my center point will be 2 1/4. And I need to cut this one in half, which it says is 1 7/8. So in here, my center point is right in the middle of this ornament. And there we have our 4 pieces. This is where your tweezers come in handy. So I have all the pieces that I've punched out. I'm going to start by putting my angel head back in there. And one last piece with her dress. And the remaining pieces get centered. Top to bottom like so. My extra piece of brass I have here, that was the rope punch. I have this piece that might be interesting with that shape, so I'm going to snip that. We'll see how that goes for my door. And then we have to, of course, add our doorknob. Now let's get that cardinal in the tree. To make our little cardinal embellishments, you'll need to print out your small cardinal print pattern sheet. All the instructions are at the bottom, and you're going to cut the cardinal out of this template. I've made a second copy and already cut mine out. The only thing I want to point on this one is when you do print it out, do cut inside the lines just a little bit, so when you match up your pieces at the end, and they'll be hanging over the edge a little bit, so you won't be seeing any of the template piece. All right, so I'm going to use the red paper that came with the set. I like this bright red. And again, you're going to need 1 square of the black, 1 square of the yellow to create the nose. So to start, you're going to print it and you're all set. We're going to cut 1 strip of paper 1/2 inch wide by 12 inches long, just to get us started. So let's get 1/2 inch piece of paper. Now from this, we're only going to be using about 7 inches. So first cut, rotate the paper, I'm going to cut 2 pieces 1.5 inches long. So that's 1.5 up here. And again, 1.5 up here. And then I'm going to cut another piece 1 inch long. Let's go with the 1 inch. And then I need 6 squares, 1/2 inch long. So let's do the 1/2 inch 6 times. Okay, with the 6 squares that I have cut, I have to cut them in half diagonally again. So I'm going to stack 3 of them here, and I'm going to do them 3 at a time, just with my scissors. So let's set that to the side, and I am going to go one point to the other point, just line them up with my scissors. That's half of the pile. And that's the other half of the pile. One of these 1/2 inch ones we do need to cut in half again, so I'm going to use my 0 centering ruler to mark that. Go here, I'm going to slide it right on my 0 line across a straight line at the bottom. And I'm going to mark that with a pencil. So I know where that is, and I'm going to just snip that again. There we go. That one will be a scrap, and that one will probably be a scrap. Okay, and then from my other 2 squares, I also need just a quarter of that one. One of the best ways to do it again is to just draw a line down my centers with my 0 centering ruler. Just like this. Same thing on this one. And then cutting it in half and half again, because I only need that little quarter point. I can just go in with my scissors and snip out the little piece I need. So I'm just going to go from my point to the center and my point to the center. That's my first piece, and same with the black. Now we're ready to construct our embellishment. So let's grab my little base piece that I have. I will get some repositional tape. Put a little bit there so it doesn't run away on me while I'm placing pieces down. And we are ready to build. Believe it or not, it is that simple. So we'll grab our long piece. Again, I'm starting with the top going down, right along my edge. You can see how it sticks out a little bit. And voila, our bird is done. Just that fast and easy. Let's add you to my page.